Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to City Hall. Today is May 21st, 2024. This is a City Council meeting, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. And if I can ask Councilmember Goldstein to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand if you are able.
Thank you. And Madam City Clerk, you can please take the roll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Councilmember Andrews.
Present.
Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Present.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Present.
Councilmember Roach.
Here.
Councilmember Syrup. Councilmember Cermeño.
Presente.
Mayor Salinas.
Present. Thank you. And Mr. City Attorney, can you please give a closed session announcement?
Mayor and Council, this is the report for tonight as well as for May the 11th. Tonight, the Council convened at 5:30 to discuss public employment. That is the evaluation of the City Clerk, along with the annual evaluations of the other Council officers. Council took no reportable action. Council also met with its labor negotiators to discuss all bargaining groups. Council took no reportable action. On May the 11th, the Council met in closed session at 2:30 to discuss pending litigation, the case of Wu versus the City of Hayward, which is the California Voting Rights Act case. And the Council authorized settlement with the following key elements: development of 6 council districts with those maps developed by mid-October. Those maps would be in effect for the 2026 election cycle, with the seat of mayor remaining at large. Public engagement and informational workshops have started on May 14th, will continue on May 28th, at which time additional hearings and workshops should be announced. Any vacancy occurring on the council between 2024 and 2026 would be the subject of a special mail ballot election under certain conditions. And finally, plaintiff's counsel Scott Rafferty would be paid $125,000 for fees and costs incurred in connection with the litigation. Settlement agreement is a public document available for copying and inspection in the office of the city clerk or city attorney. That concludes the report. Thank you.
Next, I have a special presentation for National Police Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day. And what I'd like to do is ask Councilmember Bonilla if you can please hold that. I have a proclamation I wanted to read, and then we'll go down there and do the ceremonial picture, and then if we can have the rest of the officers join us down here, and then you can have a moment to make some comments, and then we'll conclude. City of Hayward Proclamation. Whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed Public Law 87-726, designating May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15 falls as National Police Week. And whereas police officers throughout our country are dedicated citizens whose lives are committed to protecting and serving families, businesses, neighborhoods, schools, and communities, and whereby each year between 150 and 200 peace officers across the nation are killed in the line of duty, making the ultimate sacrifice to the communities they protect. And whereas the city of Hayward owes a great debt of gratitude to 5 brave members of its police department who have given the ultimate sacrifice in the course of their duties. George E. Vieira, shot September 16, 1929, while attempting to arrest a robber. Bobby L. McSpadden, killed August 4, 1972, while pursuing a wanted suspect. Robert J. Reed, strangled June 29th, 1974, by a prisoner in the jail. Benjamin Worcester, stabbed March 25th, 1987, during his struggle with a violent parolee. And Scott Lunger, shot July 22nd, 2015, during a traffic stop. And whereas the members of the Police Department of the City of Hayward play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of people of Hayward, and whereas it is important that all persons of the Hayward community know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the police department of the City of Hayward has grown to be a modern and scientific law enforcement agency which unceasingly provides a vital public service. Now, therefore, I, Mark Salinas, Mayor of the City of Hayward, do hereby proclaim the week of May 12th, 2024 through May 18th, 2024 as National Police Week in Hayward, and Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 as Peace Officers Memorial Day. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a big round of applause. And of course, yes.
Thank you, Mayor, for the proclamation. Chief Matthews is sorry he couldn't be here this evening. So on behalf of the men and women of the Hayward Police Department, I would like to thank you for recognizing the sacrifice that was made by those that paid the ultimate sacrifice for this community. Thank you for your continuous support, both Mayor and Council of the Hayward Police Department, and of the very difficult job and work that we ask our profession to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him another big round of applause. Thank you. And Captain Lenteo, please, yes, so the chief, I believe, is at the California Police Chiefs Conference somewhere, yes. And please tell the men and women of the Hayward Police Department, thank you for everything they're doing and everything they have done. And please, for this evening, please tell them to be safe tonight. Thank you. Okay, our next item is public comment. This is reserved for anybody who would like to make a public comment. And I know I do see some cards, and I believe there are some agenda items that they want to make a comment on. And let me see. Here, Mr. Rollins says, "Will explain." So I believe you'll have make a public comment unrelated to whatever's on the agenda. Okay. All right. So what I want to do is open up for public comment, and Mr. Rollins, come on up. And you hit the button. Red means go around here. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Kenneth Rollins, and I just want to congratulate the officers that were just present for putting their lives on the line for all of us, and to be careful at all times and think at all times, basically. I want to say everyone in here, they've been doing a very good job towards Hayward, with Hayward, and Hayward has gotten better from what I've seen in the past. So I want to congratulate you guys, everyone. And basically, I will be running for city council. So we'll see how that goes. And everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. We meet every Tuesday, so if you want to come and talk to... Thank you, sir. Okay. Well, hold on a second. Oh, so let me see if I have any public comments online. No public comments online. So I'd like to close public comments. Do you have a public comment?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I speak?
Yeah, sure, go right
Okay.
ahead.
Hi, my name is Vivian, and I live downtown, like a block from here. And I've lived here for like more than 20-something years. And honestly, I'm not happy with a lot of things in Hayward. Today, I don't know if I can speak to this flyer. You know, I see my neighbors. A lot of us are either, going to retire or already have retired on fixed income. People are working 2-3 jobs. Inflation is high, everything. I mean, I like the priorities, but I just feel that you guys need to realize that people in Hayward, we are not made of money. Okay, everything, especially homeowners, every year I see my property tax go up, insurance is up, inflation is up. I have a kid in college. Things are not easy. I mean, I read it and you say no increase, but this is one of the ways. It's still a tax. At the end of the day, you guys are here for a reason. You are our elected officials. I look to you guys as for leadership. Please think out of the box. Find ways to fund things. Don't just slap BOT stamp. Taxpayer, you guys pay. Same thing with PG&E, right? They flat thing, they stamp, rubber stamp. Let all the people pay. That's why people are moving out. I do not want to move out of California. I love this place. I love Hayward. Honestly, Hayward has the best weather ever. And it's a nice place to live. People are nice. My neighbors are nice. And I live downtown here. I love everything about this place, except that the downtown is dead. So the half-cent sales tax, when you think about it, where is it going to come? And if it's going to ever be sunset or never, because we are never going to get enough money to fund all the things. So what I'm just saying is that I look to you guys for leadership. I don't know how many of you are, an economist. Please find ways, think out of the box, do partnerships with corporate people or whatever. We bring in money because I think last week there was a report on TV. They said that Hayward homeless numbers have gone up 30%. And I was shocked when I heard that. I said, wow, really? So that tells you people are struggling. Every cent matters. Every cent matters. We're all working. And like I said, people in Hayward, we're not rich. We're not made of money. So respectfully, find ways. find ways. This may be one of them, and then I know down the line there'll be new taxes and new measures and new proposition, and a lot of people don't vote. They talk and talk and talk. When the time comes, they don't vote, and things just pass. That's what I noticed. And then people complain, oh, how come we have to pay this and that? I talk to my neighbors and the people I know, So I'm speaking on behalf of, a lot of people that friends and neighbors. So thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to my input. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then be sure to fill out a card and give it to the city clerk. Thank you very much. Okay, so I don't see any more public comment, so I will close public comment and move on to our consent calendar. I do have a request to pull item number 2. We will handle that separately. Is there anybody else that would like to pull anything?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
my apologies, but I believe we have the city manager's comment next.
After public comment?
City manager comments is next.
Oh, okay, because it doesn't say, okay, all right. Okay, so close public comment and then city manager's comment.
Happy to jump in here. Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public who are with us this evening. I have 3 comments here. The Transportation Division of our Public Works Department hosted a virtual community meeting for the Orchard Avenue Traffic Calming Project on May 9th. Staff provided an update and received feedback on proposed short-term plans for Orchard Avenue that addressed the feedback received at the community meeting that was held in January. Staff is planning to present the details of the short-term plans to the Council Infrastructure and Airport Committee later next month at the meeting on the 26th. And construction of the short-term plans is anticipated to begin in fall of 2024. Next update is the city's maintenance team has installed all 12 semi seats at the identified bus stops. Transportation staff will be releasing a survey soon and posting QR codes at each location for bus riders to provide input on the program. The survey results will help identify areas for improvement and identify opportunities for potential expansion of the program. Last but not least, the city hosted a Bike to Wherever Day event on May 16th. City staff and bike advocates hosted Energizer stations at the downtown and South Hayward BART stations. We had over 70 people riding bikes at the downtown BART station, stopped by 40 in South Hayward. City provided coffee, fruit, and energy bars at both stations and received great input from residents. City staff were joined at the stations by staff from HARD, AC Transit, and Bike Hayward. Those are all my comments this evening.
Thank you, and I apologize. Next is our consent calendar. And I do have a request to pull item number 2. We will handle that separately. But before I move on to a vote, I think I have, Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to make a few comments on this evening's consent calendar. The first is just to acknowledge the agreement that we're going to be going into with Project Sentinel for $180,000 to provide mediation, arbitration, and education support related to rent stabilization, residential rent stabilization, tenant protection ordinance, and the mobile home space rental stabilization ordinance. I know that this is, just a drop in the bucket, but it's good to see our city continuing to fight for these kind of services for our most vulnerable members of the community. Related to consent item 4, I had some questions around why are we just extending the task force through June 2024, which is the Homelessness and Housing Task Force, and I just wanted to clarify that this extension is going to allow for the task force to meet one additional time to bring back recommendations to City Council on how we should go forward with dealing with our housing and homelessness issue at the City Council level. Given our recent point-in-time count data and other factors, I just want to encourage my colleagues who are on that task force to strongly consider the formation of a council committee on this topic. I think that an annual update to council, although it's comprehensive and it's good, we just need more of a regular cadence in this space, and especially considering the factors that are impacting our unhoused members of the community. The last thing I wanted to mention is consent item 12, and this is around the approval for the State Department of Housing and Community Development, the requested actions, and to adopt a resolution authorizing the joint application to and participation in the state's Home Key program. I really appreciate this program in a lot of ways. I think it provides a lot of vital resources to address our homelessness crisis. And, what we heard from the media recently and our point in time count, which is showing, we still have more work to do here. I think this program provides a broad range of flexible services that we can offer. Probably the things that we know the most about, because we've heard a lot about it in the media, is the hotels and motels, but we can also leverage this funding for single-family homes, multifamily apartment complexes, and other creative ways of addressing our homelessness crisis. I know that we're particularly going to be using this $10 million for a project around our scattered site home program, but I was just wondering perhaps if we can get a little bit more information, to the public on what that is, and then also, do we think we have the right partnerships for the application to move forward? Those are my two questions there, and those are my only comments on the consent calendar this evening. Otherwise, I'll be happy to move the items.
Okay, and then so moved by council member.
Just wanted to get clarification on those questions.
Yeah, exactly. So does anyone of staff want to provide a clarification to any one of those two questions?
Will you repeat the questions, please?
Sure. The $10 million for the Project Home Key proposal is for our scattered site housing program. Just want the public to know a little bit more about that program and why it is we're choosing that strategy. I'm supportive of it, but I think it would be good to just hear a little bit more about it. And then my second question is, this application has faced a couple of delays because of partnership issues. So just wanted to know, do you think we have the right partners now engaged, and do you think we have the clarity that's needed for the application to move forward, since it's such an important program for our community?
And I'll do my best here. So, as you mentioned, this work is incredibly vital. I do think we have the right partners in place now. What I'll say is, I don't know that I would necessarily blame the partners that we had previously. I think the application process was actually pretty flawed. And they've done their best to make it a more fair and appropriate process. The first application that we put in, they loved it. They were praising it. They had told us the great work that we had done, and then turned around and said, no, we're not allowing grants for the purchase of homes. You have to own the property, and that's just not a viable solution, because most agencies don't just have houses throughout the community. And so they changed the standards and have allowed for some purchase of homes. I do think that we have the appropriate partners in place. We'll use the funds as best as we can to get as many folks as we can, quote unquote, forever homes, and offer them a place in the various communities, and help them off the streets in a lot of cases. So.
Excellent, thank you. And just a quick follow-up. When will we hear back on the results of the application in terms of if we've been awarded this money or not?
I think that we will probably hear later this fall, but I can get if we know what they've stated as far as when they'll be releasing results on that for you guys.
Excellent, thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second the motion when we're ready.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Bonilla, second by Councilmember Syra, and then I believe we have a comment by Councilmember. Well, first of all, is it Councilmember Roach?
Sorry, no, I was just going to second the motion.
Oh,
earlier.
okay, and Councilmember Andrews.
Yes, I have a follow-up question in relation to what Councilmember Bonilla brought up with item number 12 and the scattered sites. In this program, is there any way staff can look at advocacy for hotels to be brought back into the program, as we did see that working during the pandemic and actually did house a lot of people, and now that program has ended, and now we're starting to see the impacts of that program ending. Is there any way we can look at that?
We can certainly try. I don't know that it'll qualify under this exact grant. The other thing I would mention is we will have resources coming online in the community at St. Regis that will offer similar places for folks. I know some of the folks that refused services at the current navigation center was because there were dormitory style conditions, and St. Regis will have conditions where folks will have their own space, essentially.
Okay. And I'm assuming this will all be reviewed in the task force in the last meeting and moving forward in the committee. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify the motion. The motion is to move all the items except item number 2 and item 11, because I just got a last second here request to pull item number 11. So if the motioner or the seconder is okay with that, okay. Moved by Councilmember Bonilla, seconded by Councilmember Syrup, and if there are no objections, it will unanimously pass. Next is, we had somebody who wanted to pull item number 2, and I'd like to call upon Andreas Kluver. Mr. Kluver.
Good evening, Mayor Salinas, council members. Andreas Kluver, Secretary Treasurer, Alameda County Building Trades Council, here to speak in favor of item 2 and hope that you will move that item forward. But I'm actually really here to kind of thank this community and this city for the relationship you've had with the building trades for quite some time now. I'm trying to look back and see, I know Council Members Armeño, Mayor Salinas, I think you guys were around for the original approval of our first community workforce agreement, which was actually very innovative with some of the things we did. And the rest of you, thank you for all your continued support of this agreement. It really is a partnership. We're really focusing primarily on getting residents of this area into our apprenticeship programs of this agreement. We've had, I think, good success. I think we can do more. And to that effect, I think we've done some changes to revising the agreement to kind of facilitate some of that. And I would like to thank both the outgoing city manager, Kelly McAdoo, who we had a long-term relationship with, and the interim or acting city manager, Dustin, who we kind of finalized the agreement with. And we've had a great relationship with staff. It's a very constructive partnership. And that's really what I want to do, is thank all of you, really be here with our continued commitment to this community and to the residents here, and working to get them into our trades program. So thank you very much for that, and I hope you pass the item.
Thank you, and with that, if there's no other public comment, I will close public comment, and I'd like to move the item. Moved by Mayor Salinas, seconded by Councilmember Zermeño. And if there are no other questions, Madam City Clerk, let's vote on this. And the item passes unanimously 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Kluver. Our next item that was pulled was item number 11, and I believe TJ from Hayward Concerned Citizens would like to make a comment.
Hello, and thank you, Ms. Lenz. I appreciate it. I'm TJ with Hayward Concerned Citizens, and the reason I asked to speak on this item, the Jackson Street Gateway Monument Sign Project, was to make a simple ask for council consideration. In Figure 2 in your agenda packet, which shows the proposed new monument, there are 6 round gold plaques that I assume will again feature various service clubs and organizations in Hayward, symbolizing our city's civic pride. In past years, these have included Lions Club, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club, etc. But one club that has missed recognition is the Hill and Valley Club. This is a nonprofit organization with a clubhouse on B Street and they formed as a federated women's club in 1910. Over the years, Hill and Valley has donated support and resources to both national and regional causes, including Red Cross and League of Nations. But here at home, they've played a significant role in realizing Mayor Salinas' desire to promote Hayward as an education city. Every year, Hill and Valley Club holds various events to raise funds for several scholarships that go to our local deserving high school students and graduating Chabot College Nursing School students. In fact, they just presented those awards at a luncheon they hosted yesterday. I've seen a few of their events firsthand, and I can't speak highly enough of their camaraderie, their charitable efforts, and longevity in our community. So please do check out Hill and Valley and consider adding their name to this beautiful monument in honor of their 114 plus wonderful years of contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to close public comment and open up for a motion or second.
I'll move the item.
Moved by Councilmember Andrews,
Second.
second by Councilmember Roach. And if there are no other questions, Madam City Clerk, if you can poll the vote. And item passes unanimously 7-0. Thank you. Moving on, we have one item today in our agenda. It's a work session item, so we aren't making any decisions on this tonight. We're not voting on anything tonight. This is an opportunity for the public to comment. This is an opportunity for the council to question and comment. This is the potential ballot measure to extend without increasing the City of Hayward half-cent sales tax. And this report will be delivered to us from the interim city manager, Mr. Dustin Clausen.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So very excited to be here this evening. Looking forward to providing some information to Council and the community, as well as some information that we will share from some of the partners that we've engaged for some of the work that we've done thus far. We wanted to first bring Council and the community up to speed on where we're at with Measure C and have what we've done since June of 2014 when the voters of Hayward approved the district sales tax. We are looking at potential of considering to extend the tax for either 20 or 30 years past its current sunset, which would help us in many ways that we'll get into. We also wanted to provide information on the public opinion and voter support for the extension of the sales tax. Ultimately, we're looking to get a decision from Council on whether you all would like us to come back in June with legislation to place a sales tax extension before voters in November of 2024. So next slide, please. First, a bit of background. This is the original ballot language that was on the ballot in June of 2014. I'm sure folks are probably wondering why we had it on a June ballot. We used to have elections in June, and now we've moved to a November election. So wanted to provide a little bit of that background. In June 2014, Hayward voters passed Measure C with 67% voting in favor of authorizing the half-cent sales tax for 20 years. Measure passed with such strong support, it reflected the community and council priorities, which were mentioned in the ballot question itself. So next slide, please. The story on Measure C, really, it has to do with delivering on the promises that council made to the community in 2014. We have by far exceeded the expectations, I think, that existed in 2014, because I don't think that we had in mind that we were going to be able to do as good as we did in both the library, Heritage Plaza, and our regional fire training center, which has exceeded certainly my expectations I think in 2014, we expected a very small training center out there, and it clearly is tops in the region and likely state and potentially even the country. So very excited for that. We've also done a bunch in making sure to deliver on the promises for not only capital projects, but street maintenance, making sure that we are addressing graffiti and illegal dumping, as well as improving response times from both police and fire and in our communications center. So very excited to report on that. We used Measure C to make sure that we have done the single largest, which this will change shortly, but the single largest roads project in a year in the city of the city's history. We will soon be eclipsing that, and likely we'll do that in years in the future with Measure C if we are successful in doing that. So next slide, please. This is the 10 years remaining of Measure C. This is the forecast. We're looking at revenues anywhere between 20 and 25 million annually. We have done great work in controlling our expenses. In years previous, like I mentioned, we had significant capital projects, and so we don't have programming for much in the way of capital projects remaining. We've been pretty successful in executing on those early in the tenure of Measure C. The big red bar there includes the operating expenses that I was referring to when it comes to having folks in our maintenance services department, our police department, as well as we've got funding in here related to some of the positions for our HEART team. We also, in the blue line is our debt service. You'll likely recall that this last calendar year we were successful in refinancing the debt service that the debt that we used to be able to fund our library and learning center as well as Heritage Plaza to achieve pretty significant savings and stabilize our debt service payments for the remainder of that financing. The yellow line is the annual cash flow, and essentially what that is, that will offer us is the opportunity to devote the funds that remain in there to future capital projects. We can use it for anything that falls in line with the promise that council made in 2014. But this provides a bit of background for where we've been and where we expect to go with the current iteration of Measure C. So, next slide, please. So what we'd like to get into now is the potential of what we could do with Measure C if we were to extend it for either 20 or 30 years. Looking to continue to provide services and enhancements of those services at the library. Certainly, I know we've talked a lot on the dais and in meetings about wanting to get to a place where we can be open on Sunday hours. That's certainly something that we could consider with this. Always looking to find ways to be creative and to get more people off the streets. So certainly we could look at what's going on at the Navigation Center, as well as the HEART team and the great work that they're doing right now, and really trying to maximize the use of these funds that the public has trusted us with. So next slide, please. There we go. See, we do these fancy illustrations, and they get stuck sometimes. So what we're looking at are areas of need in the city related to facilities and infrastructure. Some, certainly council is aware of the needs at the courtyard. I think many are aware, we've talked quite a bit about the needs at our animal shelter, and certainly the needs at our beyond aging Hayward Police Department. It is well past its prime, and so looking at ways that we can fund this very necessary infrastructure and facilities, and looking at the potential in what an extension of Measure C might look like, and how we could address the needs for these facilities that really offer ways for us to provide services in the city. I would be remiss, and my apologies to both Genty and Mary for not mentioning the Stack Center, which we are looking to close the gap in funding there, and then also a rebuild of the Weeks Branch Library. I think we would like to see it become much closer to, certainly not in size, but offering the same services and technology as our downtown library, and really looking to enhance the good work that goes on there. So, next slide, please. So I want to just let the council and community know about some of the work that we've done recently surrounding Measure C, and looking at how we could get the community involved and get some feedback. We've consistently done an annual report on Measure C to keep the community aware of what's going on with the funds that they have entrusted us with. And so that top left, we have a picture of the annual report. We've also got information that was sent out relating to Measure C on the stack. And we did an informal survey, which we will talk a little bit about here on the next couple of slides, but to really get feedback from the community on how they think we're doing, what's important to them. This was an informal, not statistically representative survey for anybody who wanted to participate. We didn't necessarily specifically target any portion of the community. It was available to anyone who was reached and wanted to join the party. So next slide, please. And this was a big one that I think was good in that we asked folks, what do you think about the proposal to extend but not increase the existing city sales tax? We had 60% who said they support it, and 40 who said, I have questions or concerns. I think you will get some statistical survey information that will offer a better information for council to consider when looking at this. So next slide, please. This was what do we think that we should consider if folks were to approve it? What would they like to see us devote some resources towards? I won't belabor these points. I think we'll see more about them in the actual survey work that went on. But this has certainly helped to inform the things that we actually did put into the survey that our partners at FM3 did for us. So next slide. This is additional listening and information gathering, and just sort of offered a what do you have what do you have more questions about? What do you want more information about? And this helped us to prioritize again some of the survey work that we did with FM3, and it's not surprising probably to anyone in this room. Folks wanted to hear about police and crime, and affordable housing, and so that will play out a bit more here as we go forward. So next slide. So now I would like to introduce Miranda Everett from FM3. Miranda, I will kick it over to you so I don't steal any of your thunder.
Okay, thanks so much. So my name is Miranda Everett. I'm a Senior Vice President at FM3 Research. We're a public opinion research firm based in Oakland, California that has partnered with the city over the last few years to do community surveys as well as some voter surveys like this one tonight. So I'll start by just talking about some general methodology that we use to approach this survey. This was a dual mode survey, meaning that we contacted people every way we know how, phone and online. So either live interviews by cell phone or landline, or online interviews driven by a text message or an email. This was available in English and in Spanish. And we were able to reach 653 likely November 2024 voters in Hayward. That's a random representative sample, a little distinct from the survey that Dustin just mentioned. For that reason, because folks were equally likely to be selected to participate rather than opting in. That gives us a margin of sampling error around 4% for the full sample and 5.7% for places where we used a half sample, where we split the sample into two parts to sort of A/B test different approaches and also kind of save time and respondent patience as well. On the next slide, you'll see as we start to dig into the details here, one classic question that pollsters like to ask is to assess whether people are feeling optimistic or pessimistic. And here we see that overall, voters in the city are more optimistic than pessimistic. 40% say things are headed in the right direction, while just 30% say things are headed off on the wrong track. Another 30% kind of in the middle say they don't know, feeling mixed. That don't know share has ticked up a bit. That right direction share has ticked down a tiny bit, but so has the wrong track. So generally, folks pretty mixed to optimistic. And I will say, compared to other communities across the Bay Area and around the West Coast, these are fairly favorable numbers. They look very different in other places on the West Coast. Notably, the younger and more liberal voters in the city are the ones who are feeling a bit more optimistic about the direction of the city. On the next slide, we also asked folks to tell us whether, in principle, they believe that the city has an additional need for funding. You know, Dustin and you folks have kind of talked about some of the specific needs the city has, but we know, and lots of folks kind of busy everyday lives, they may or may not notice those things. But we do see that need is visible in Hayward. 70% or more say that the city has at least some need for additional funding for city services and facilities. And you can see the need to improve those things is a little bit higher than the need to maintain them. But broadly speaking, folks in the community do see the need for additional funding. So next we gave people potential measure language for the extension. This is as close as possible to what we might see on a ballot in November, that 75-word limit that we have. Including that kind of run-on sentence, some of those financial details, how the money would be spent, and some of the accountability provisions as well. So everyone either saw this online or it was read to them over the phone, and then they were asked how they would vote based on just that language alone. And what we see as a result is that when we stipulate that it would end after 30 years, we have support from about 2/3. When we stipulate that the tax would end automatically in 20 years, we have support from just over 7 and 10. So given the margin of error of the sample, it's not a dramatic difference between the two and the total yes vote, but where you do see more of a difference is with the margin of support. So the margin of support for the 30-year sunset is 43 points. It's 51 points for the 20-year sunset. So really good numbers out of the gate for a measure that requires 50% plus one. But definitely a need to drive up that definitely yes with the, with more information provided to voters about, what this measure could provide. More possibility there. The next slide shows how this compares to the last survey we did in the community, which was done about a year ago now, maybe a little bit longer than a year ago now. We see those vote shares are pretty similar. 78% to 72%. So, a little bit of an erosion there as we're seeing in a lot of communities, but still quite strong. That margin of support, though, has also shrunk just a bit. It was a 61-point margin in 2023. It's now a 51-point margin. So again, that's something we're seeing kind of across the state. for lots of different reasons. You still have broad support, but it is a little bit more muted than it was about a year ago. Another important task we had in the poll was to look at what are the priorities people have for funding. In this random representative sample, what are the things people see as most important to include in the measure? And at the very top of the list here, these are ranked by the share who call them either extremely or very important to fund with a measure. You see things like fixing streets and repairing potholes. 87% called that extremely or very important. Nearly half called that extremely important at the very top of the scale provided. Fire protection just behind that, and improved emergency response times there as well. Similarly, you can see providing police patrols, preparing for natural disasters and emergencies, senior services, general fiscal stability, and expanding the pilot program we've talked about a few times tonight, providing clinical, mental, and behavioral health response to people in crisis. All of those things are important to 2/3 or more of voters in the community. Moving down the list a bit more, you can see things that are important to 2/3 to just under half of voters. The dark blue bars of extremely important start to get a bit narrower here, but still lots of things that voters really value in different shades of blue here. Top of the list are things like removing blight, litter, and graffiti, and fixing deteriorating sidewalks, keeping St. Rose open with matching funds, after-school programs, low-income family services, space at libraries so that children can attend story time, and then services for community members experiencing homelessness. All of those things important to broad majorities. Notably, building the new fire station in the hills is a little bit lower in intensity, but we saw on that prior slide that people do really value fire protection. So as we often see in these surveys, kind of talking about the ultimate outcome is something that really resonates, and how we get there is just a little bit less intensely valued. Finally, we also provided folks a little bit of information about the measure and some brief critiques to get a kind of realistic look at the floor, the ceiling, where folks are, how consistent they are in their support. And we did see a little bit of erosion in support with critical messaging. Notably, we're at that 69% yes when we combine the 20 and 30-year sunset splits that we did. That moves up just a little bit after information, with 43% definitely yes and 69% saying they would vote yes overall. And then that slips just a bit to 61% after critical messaging. Still a fairly strong position for a simple majority measure, but evidence there too of that kind of need to share with folks the benefits of the measure to help them kind of understand the rationale for voting yes. So lots of information there. Happy to take questions.
Thank you.
So thank you, Miranda. So we've got just a couple more slides and want to really just ask council for their feedback this evening, as to whether you would like staff to continue to proceed with placing a ballot on a measure on the November ballot. If that answer is yes, then do we want to look at a 20 or 30-year extension? And then also help us to refine the promises that we will make to the community to be able to hold ourselves accountable and make sure that we are delivering on those promises to our community. And so that's really what we're looking for this evening. I think that's pretty much what we've got, but happy to hear from you all and anyone else. We've got Miranda Everett, who you heard from. We've also got Bonnie Moss from Clifford Moss, who's helped us out online, that can help us to answer any questions that you all may have.
Okay, thank you. Great report, great presentation. It's always good to see, data that, really is a sort of a temperature of what's going on in the city. And I know Ms. Everett and Ms. Moss have been doing this work for a long time, and they've done this work with us for a long time, and so they certainly know the city. So with that said, let me move first to public comment. This is a work session, and so let me Okay, I have two comments online. And first, let me call upon Ro Aguilar.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Much has been accomplished with Measure C sales tax, which was overwhelmingly approved 10 years ago. I support the passage of the proposed 2024 measure to extend the existing half-cent sales tax to support the priorities identified in the community surveys. I agree that public safety, maintaining and upgrading public infrastructure, safety net services, and disaster preparedness are priorities. As we consider extending the measure for another 20 plus years, the biggest and most urgent city needs are in the areas of public safety and affordable housing, especially with the lasting impact of the COVID pandemic. These designated priorities are being incorporated in the proposed ballot question to encourage people to vote yes on this funding measure, assured that sales tax money will be spent to address the problems the community has identified. As I read the proposed ballot question in the city's mailer, priority number 4, providing safety net services for those most in need, is not included. This omission must be corrected before the language is finalized. Lack of homeless housing facilities and resources is part of public safety, both for the housed and unhoused. Homelessness may not rank highest on the survey, but it's definitely on people's minds. We are in a housing crisis. Long-term projects such as the Depot, St. Regis, and Hart are integral to the solution. The proposition needs to specify more of these types of housing solutions in the renewed Measure C. Hayward's homeless population appears to have reduced a bit according to the PIT count of January 2024. Let's keep this reduction on track by providing future funds to address this urgent priority. And by the way, I support Councilmember Andrews' request that the city staff look at the 10 million that was in the home key for scattered homes and look at that as a possibility to kickstart maybe a home key hotel or remodeling of a hotel and perhaps place funding for it in this new measure, renewed measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is JT from Hayward Concerned Citizens.
Who's going to go against everything I said?
Hello, TJ again, Hayward Concerned Citizens. I appreciated the survey results and most especially the enlightening comments section. It shows there are clearly a lot of other concerned folks out there who have strong feelings about the way our city is run and where our city leaders put their attention. So I do hope you continue to listen to your constituents' wants and needs. But as far as delivering on promises made with this measure, how can you possibly, when there are too many projects in the works, in the air, and in the future you don't even know are coming yet? St. Rose was not anticipated to be funded by Measure C, yet it is. The Stack Center was not envisioned as being funded by Measure C, but it sounds like that's the plan now. You promised a state-of-the-art public safety building and 2 state-of-the-city speeches, but it sounds like so far the only guarantee is of a locker room for our police that you honored tonight. You want to see the Loop revised, La Vista Park actualized, more people's budget projects, a fully funded HART program, and now a second library remodel. You talk about using salary savings often to fill gaps from vacant positions. The speaker in public comments was right. Every cent matters. I truly wish I could unhear the things I've heard and unknow what I know, but I know it's still vague how these funds will actually be spent. Once they get in that general fund, it's our city leaders who get to prioritize how they'll get how they'll get used as they see fit, hopefully for the right reasons. So I guess what I'm saying is good luck, but please be transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Peggy Guernsey.
Thank you this evening. I'm not in favor of this Measure C sales tax because I see three different words. It's an increase, it's temporary, and extending it 20 or 30 years. I do not think that the city is managing its financial responsibility. I do not see that we're spending money wisely. We're putting carts before the horses in projects sitting out there. And planning is wise, yes, but I don't see that you're getting enough input from the citizens. I think where you voted yourselves a 65.1% raise without trusting the citizens of Hayward to agree with you, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on your 7 selves because you hadn't had a raise since 2003 and none of you were on the council then. I don't, our city is not clean. Our city is not welcoming. You keep talking about how big our city is. Well, I'd like to at least see the weeds cleaned out and having people responsible for the junk that's being dumped or they're placing in front of their own property, and then the city pays for waste management to come pick it up. There's not a good campaign to get it clean. The other thing, I was really tickled. Wow, Winton's looking real good, and like we've paved the road. It looks to me to be that we're painting the road, and within a few months, the old great roadage is popping back through, and it's cracking and things like that. If we're writing contracts with people that are supposed to fix our roads, why aren't our roads clean and consistent? And those nice roads don't even last 6 months, let alone, I think they should last 5 years on improvements. At this point, I don't think your wordage is fair and safe. I don't think it's clear, and I do not support this tax increase or temporary sales or extension, especially for the next 20 or 30 years. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't see any more. I don't see anybody else online, and now I'd like to open it up for here in the chamber. Is there anybody here in the chamber that would like to make a public comment on the presentation? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, I'd like to close public comments, and I'll open up for council questions and comments. First is Councilmember Zermeño.
Mayor, thank you very much. Assistant City Manager, excellent job. Valerie, not Melanie, Melanie. Melanie?
Miranda.
Huh?
Miranda.
Okay, my apologies. Very good report, very thorough. I like it. I think that what we're looking at are projects that are resident-centered, Hayward-centered, in the sense that whenever I run into residents, they want to see better public safety, no potholes on the streets, better traffic. They want to see more places for public enjoyment. And I think that's extremely important. Before I go on, so this would pass by 50% plus 1, correct?
Correct.
All right, okay. I believe that this is best for Hayward in that all of these projects are for the improvement of Hayward. I do support the notion of putting this on the ballot in November for 20 years. And I know that I've already knocked on doors on this, by the way, and I mentioned public safety, I mentioned parks, I mentioned streets, and they go, yes, those are definitely needed. And of course, the list is all Hayward. The list that we're talking about is a new public safety building, a new maintenance operation yard, a new or rebuilt library in south on the Tennyson corridor. The folks, we're talking about equity here. Tennyson corridor is one of our areas that needs the most improvement. Along with that, we have a stack center that we're trying to build out there, and that's really tremendous. At the end of Tennyson Road, we have a La Vista Park, which I still would like to complete at 50 acres as it was originally thought of. Free enjoyment for all, open space, that's extremely important to all. The streets, the potholes, the fire station up on I believe it's on 2nd Street. Right now, the firefighters are working out of a house that was converted. So let's, for the public safety of all, for the fires that may come, let's build a new fire station out there. I believe those are all the major areas that I can think of, and I'm sure my colleagues will also think of a couple more. Somebody told me, well, you just want to put your name out there. No, this isn't me. This isn't Councilman Cermeño going to put his name on any one building or anything. These are projects that are going to benefit the 165,000 people that we have and the ones that are going to come over, and the youth. We have a huge number of youngsters in our city of Hayward, and all of these projects are going to benefit them. So I certainly encourage my colleagues, and I certainly encourage all of you to see if you can support the extension of Measure C, which is not a new tax, simply an extension. And I thank you, Mayor, and I thank you, staff, again, for the good work on this.
Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the presentation. As Councilmember Cermeño said, we have all been out going door to door and talking with the community. So there's been, many ways that we've gone out to try to take the temperature from the community on this. There was mailing done, there was social media done, there was, obviously a more scientific survey that was done by phone, and then all the door-to-door work that everybody did here to get it, to really understand where the community was coming from, and predominantly people were either positive or neutral. And while I hear the comments that it is difficult to talk about extending a tax. And I want to be clear, this is a flat tax. There is no extension. I think the one caller mentioned they didn't know what it really was. It is not an increase. It is a flat tax that will not go up. So what we're paying right now, we're going to keep paying should this go on the ballot. And I understand that it is difficult. And so, people are not happy about having to pay current taxes, and they'd rather pay less tax than that. But the city does have unmet needs that are not in our current projected revenue for the city. And I think we have shown that we use the previous dollars on really significant infrastructure for the city, things that were necessary and that we're really proud of, like the library, like the fire training center. And when I was going door to door, while that is sort of anecdotal, it's more of an informal survey, people were really concerned about what we could do, what extra we could do for public safety and streets and cleanliness. And it was really important, and they were willing to continue to pay the current tax in order to get some help in that area. And so, just being out door to door was really informative because A, they were glad that we were actually asking, but B, that they could say the difficult things that they were concerned about, that they were unhappy about, but that they could express okay, if this is going to help continue, for us to get this kind of support, then they'd be willing to do it. And so it was comforting for me that, well, I know not everyone's happy about it, and I know, we heard the callers, and I thank the downtown neighbor for being here, expressing your concerns. It at least gave me a comfort level to feel that there is support if the dollars will continue to go to what they want it to go to. And our sort of promise to continue to be transparent about that, I think, is is a promise that, that the city is trying to make. And I think that, with some sort of minor inquiry, I think community members could feel more comfortable about that. So I am comfortable moving it forward with the 20-year extension. The question of when will it sunset? Yeah, I think the current one, we're halfway through into 10 years. We're talking about going to 20 years or another 20 years. That will be a total of an extra 30 years from where we are now. And, because I think that would be the more conservative way to go on this point. We will see an ending date on, what we're asking the community to do now. So the 20-year is what I'm comfortable with doing. And as far as, let's see, I think the other one was the ballot language. I think, so anecdotally, yes, safety, public safety, streets and roads, like that seems to be the predominant concern. And of course, I hear, of course, housing is a really important part of it. And I think the caller's point about housing being a public safety concern is absolutely right. And I think we can have those discussions going forward. But as far as what most people seem to care about right now, there's this sort of like high level public safety, streets and roads. So I thank everyone for the work. I think it was really great for all of us to be out there hearing from the community. There were some tough conversations, but conversations that we could then sort of help turn around and what, what their concerns really were and how these dollars might help with those concerns. So I do feel confident moving forward with this. That would be my recommendation. I know this is just a work session, but I would ask my colleagues to support moving forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation and the significant amount of work that has gone into getting the word out about this potential measure and collecting the community's opinion on it. I'm in agreement with my colleagues up here around wanting to put this on the ballot. And I agree 20 years seems like the appropriate approach just to give clear direction there. What I want to say is, I think the city does try its best to be transparent around how these dollars are spent. When projects are brought up like St. Rose or the Stack Center, to me, those aren't projects that are done intended to hide them from the public's view, but rather an example of how we have been incredibly effective with our taxpayer dollars. Not only have we kept the promise that we made with Measure C, with the new fire station, with the new library, paying for public safety staffing, but we've taken those dollars even further by keeping a hospital in our community open, by supplying a park, by figuring out how we can fund the appropriate construction of a community center. So I think this council and previous iterations of this council and our city staff have been incredibly effective at leveraging taxpayer dollars for maximum value, which is why I feel confident putting this forward again. I just really want to communicate. I feel like the city has exceeded its promises, and I'm hoping we can do the same again with these dollars. I do think the city could be better about communicating impact, though. When we look at the survey and we see that, for example, public facilities is number 5, but public safety is number 1, I think we need to do a better job of contextualizing, why those buildings are important. We do have a staffing problem within our police department. I understand that. And when we actually talk to the folks that are staffing in the police department, you find out that their facilities are a major component that affects morale and affects recruitment. And so these issues actually go hand in hand, and I think that's something that's lost in the survey, and I want to communicate here as to why I'm advocating for this to go on the ballot. And it's not just police. When we're looking at the Stack Center, when we're looking at the library, our ability to retain talented staff that ultimately serve and improve our community and make our community better is contingent upon them enjoying where they work. And these ballot measures go a long way in keeping them in our city and also providing better resources for our community too. It's a completely reasonable concern to say we're all being pushed. I'm a renter. I completely understand. I'm, practically living paycheck to paycheck at this point. And it's difficult because we've seen federal tax rates and state tax rates drop significantly, and we're asking our community to foot the bill. So I share in that frustration. But we have incredibly talented staff members and finance directors that I wouldn't say they're certified economists by any means. I know several of our staff members have studied economics, and we're doing our best to find a way to make ends meet so we can continue providing high quality services to the Hayward community. The mayor often says that Hayward deserves the best, and this is one of the ways in which we as a city see ourselves being able to provide the best. And there are a number of other interesting things that we are doing to supply our city with revenue. I'd encourage folks to look into the formation of the Hayward Economic Development Corporation. There will be future meetings on that. But all this is to say that we aren't ruling out any options. We are trying our best to generate revenue as a city to provide high quality services. So I just wanted to lay out all those feelings because I have faith in this council, I have faith in our staff, and I think that by putting this measure on the ballot, we can continue providing high caliber services that our residents deserve. So I'll leave my comments there. Did I check all the boxes? All right.
Thank you. Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I also appreciate the support of the Hayward voters back in June of 2024 in the initial passage of Measure C. And I'm also delighted to see that we've kept our commitments in doing everything that we said we were going to do. Upholding our public promise is a priority for all of us up here, and I think everybody on staff as well. So as we move into, looking at how we take care of our evolving and growing needs of the city, our needs evolving because of, our aging facilities, our needs are growing because our community is growing and changing. We have to be, thoughtful in how it is we get in front of those needs to make sure that Hayward is able to continue to provide great services to everyone in Hayward who deserves those. So I think us, getting in front of this extension of Measure C is the right thing to do, and it's putting our community and our neighbors and our neighborhoods first. When I think about, should we proceed with the ballot measure in November, I think the community has spoken. Not only when I was knocking at doors did I hear, the majority of our community members support this, but I think the data that we've seen tonight shows it. 60% of our community members support putting this on the ballot. So, hearing our community members and responding to what it is they're telling us, I am supportive of moving this forward in November. I'm also supportive of moving this forward for 20 years. We heard 72% of our community favored that. So I favor that too. I think it's smarter than going 30 years because, as we heard from our public commenter tonight, there's so many things that are happening right now in the economy, in the finance sector, as it relates to the cost of living and inflation. Thinking 30 years out is hard to do. Thinking 20 years out is a little bit more comfortable for me. So I support 20 years. And as it relates to the direction of these projects, this is where I do want us to make sure that we're upholding and being clear on what our public promise is. Because when I look at this proposed language, it's almost like appended onto the end of this that says we're going to modernize aging facilities, including blah, 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 right? I almost think that should be our lead, because the majority of this money is going to aging facilities. I get what Councilmember Syrup said, and I do think that it's important to draw the parallel between how investing in a new public safety center will ultimately result in better police and public safety services, including that, of animal services. But I do think that when we're leading with things that, like we're firefighting and, emergency services and police protection, but then we look at the list, and I agree with what's on the list, our police department, our new public safety center, Weeks Branch Library, Fire Station 9, our courtyard, but it just seems like we're burying the lead here, and I just want us to be a little bit, perhaps, more purposeful in how we do that. I also agree with my colleagues that public safety and housing go hand in hand, but I am not sure the general public sees it that way, just to be honest with you. I think that they see public safety as our police and fire and our EMS capabilities, and I think they see homelessness and housing as a separate issue. So when I was knocking on doors, I heard people say, how are we addressing homelessness and housing in the city? Because I'm not necessarily interested in, having more police on the street, but I am interested in figuring out how we get our community off of the street. So as we look at this ballot language, I'm wondering if we can even be more explicit around, our commitment to housing and homelessness as a means of, responsibly using these funds to address what I think are, pressing needs across our community. Also, when we look at, again, how the community has ranked or prioritized, different priorities within the city, including public safety, maintaining local streets, disaster preparedness. Again, facilities was right at the lowest, facilities is at the last of the sentence, and facilities is the majority of what we're using these funds for. So I just wanted to kind of, call that out and see how we can be more explicit about that. But otherwise, I think that let's see, what else did I have? Oh, the other question I had is, I know that this funding is starting in 2034, but will the projects on this list be able to begin before then, and then we just use the funding to pay back the loans on those projects once this passes?
Yes, conceptually, that would absolutely work. You know, without getting too deep into it, if we were to extend this for 20 years, it would really offer us a 30-year runway for financing options. So when we have a dedicated revenue stream that we could support debt service with, it will allow us to do a lot more than, say, if we had 10 years at, you know, like we do now, that we can devote towards paying down that liability.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. So as for the directions on projects and services, you know, public safety obviously is, you know, a very big priority. We've seen that listed as number one. You know, I would say other, you know, projects are around potholes and street repairs. I didn't see disaster, you know, and I'll leave it to the experts to determine the ballot language, but, you know, I didn't see disaster preparedness explicitly called out. So it's almost like if we're hearing that from the community, do we want to really let them know that we're hearing them here? So I'm not sure if we want to include disaster preparedness. I know that that can be linked with emergency medical services or public safety more generally, but because we didn't necessarily call out public safety here, we might want to call, because I know we called out firefighting, police protection, emergency services. That's sort of under the public safety umbrella, but so is disaster preparedness, and that seemed to be called out separately as a community need. So putting that in our commitment, I think, would be useful as well. But other than that, I think that this is the right thing to do with the city. As you heard from my comments, there's a lot of priorities, there's a lot of needs. It's going to be important that, you know, we continue to be transparent, because we've already been transparent with Measure C. It's taking that philosophy and continuing to commit to it and move it forward as we look at doing what's right for Hayward going forward and securing its future through this extension. So I do you know, support taking this forward, and I look forward to partnering with the community to gain broader community support for something that I think we already have a lot of support for already. But thank you, Mayor. Those are my comments tonight.
Mayor, just for the record, I do want to say that I support Councilmember Roach and Councilmember Bonilla's comments and requests for language around housing and homelessness services, just for the sake of direction here. Thank you.
Councilmember Andrews.
Mayor, does Councilmember Roche, I think she...
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure that I'm requesting additional language in the ballot statement. Maybe in the larger, what is it called, the ballot? What's the larger ballot description?
The support?
The support, yeah. I think that's where I'm looking for it, not necessarily in the ballot question, because I know this has been sort of carefully crafted based on the polling that we received. So yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Thank you.
understood, just as long as it's incorporated somewhere into this
Thank you.
process.
Yeah, because the language here that we're looking at has been tested, and yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to staff and our consultants, Mr. Metz and Ms. Everett from FM3 for the data. Thank you to our callers, Ms. Ro Aguilar, TJ from Hayward Concerned Citizens, and Ms. Guernsey for calling in, and our neighbors downtown. Thank you for coming down. We hear you. I went door to door multiple times, and many folks were supportive of the initiatives, but I also heard their concerns about rate increases. Therefore, I would not be supportive of 30 years extension. It would not be sensitive to the concerns we heard tonight. It would not be sensitive to the concerns we heard door to door. And I think the data that we're seeing is that the residents seem to be less supportive of 30 years as well. If we do 20, it will bring a total of 30 years. Therefore, I'm not comfortable with adding an additional 30. Also, I definitely want to echo some of the other comments I'm hearing from our callers, but also from the dais. We want to see more improvements with our public safety facilities. I understand that we have made some improvements in the interim, but more needs to be done. I'm also hearing from residents about Weeks Library. I think there is an equity issue that we see downtown versus in South Hayward, and so I do want to continue to prioritize that as a project, but understanding that public safety is a big concern in our community. But I also want to highlight that I know a lot of these projects, they seem like a lot of projects, but I want to make sure that we also include maintenance services, as they do a very important job in emergency services. And many people, you see public, you see the police, you see fire, but it's really our maintenance services who are really out there as well, dealing with some of the storms, dealing with some of the traffic control, setting up barriers, barricades, K-rails, all those things, that's maintenance services. And so we do need to continue to have them highlighted in the conversation. And one of the items that was, I believe it was number one, was potholes. And I understand people might hear that and think that's not priority, but it is a priority. It's a quality of life issue. It can impact someone's whole lifestyle, working, just going to work, and their car is impacted by a pothole. We really do need to address that. And our city has been doing a really good job. We have the highest pavement improvement index that we've ever had, and so we are being transparent with those numbers. You can reach out to Public Works to hear about all the good work that we're doing in terms of improving our roads, but also want to remind the public that we do have Access Hayward. So if there's a specific location you would like to see potholes addressed or a street improved, I encourage you to use Access Hayward. That is a great tool to use some of these Measure C funds that we have identified. You can help us out as well by telling us those locations. I also want to highlight that graffiti was also on the list here, and that is our maintenance services. Those are the folks that do that work, that help with the quality of life issues there. And so one thing I do want to highlight as well is if we do continue to look at improvements to our public safety facilities, I want to make sure that these facilities include something in them that is community facing, that's life affirming, because that is really some of the conversations we're hearing on the dais is, yes, we have public safety, but we also need to continue the life affirming services as well. So I would love to include that if we were to move forward with this. If the measure is passed, I would also like to give the community employees an update on some of the short-term and long-term projects that we've identified, just so we can have a window of when these updates are happening. I believe the city has done a really good job of keeping everyone abreast of what happens when we do have these large projects, which included our firehouse and our library downtown. Also want to continue to support our another project that is involved with public safety, which is the city's innovative Hayward Evaluation Response Team. Some of the concerns we heard tonight about the homelessness that we're seeing, a lot of those folks could be helped if we were to support this program even further. If we help folks with mental illness, substance abuse, getting folks off the street, this program is through our public safety departments. And so they need to be supported. And we do have this program in place, but the timing of there's only a certain amount of workers we could have on it, but also a certain amount of hours we can have on it. And this Measure C will actually help extend some of that work that will help us get folks off the street downtown, help us figure out what are the things they need, substance abuse, family reunification, what are the things they need. And so this tax would help us with that. I do understand the concern about adding larger projects, and I believe the city is being innovative, and we are tapping into our partners. We're not doing this alone. We are reaching out to HARD, saying you need to help us with La Vista Park. We're tapping into any government official that has a bucket of money. We're going to them for the Stack Center. I want us to continue to go to them for the Stack Center. I want them to put in more, because I do want to see more of this funding going to the HARD program, more of this funding going to the public safety facilities, because that is what the community is asking. And so I encourage our staff, send them the data and show them the data and tell them this is what we want, we need more money. So I definitely want to see that. And then just want to address some of the comments I heard tonight. I just want to acknowledge there's a lot of staff in the room that you can also talk to that are here tonight, because I know there's some folks who I'm so happy to see. I'm love to see new faces here. But these are the employees that actually are the creative ones. We're here. We give them our ideas. They want to just hear what we have to say, and they move forward. But they're the ones that are actually going after the folks to get that money, to be strategic, to try to keep costs down. These are the folks on the side here that you can talk to about more specific projects. So I just want to thank staff again for their hard work on this, and I want to thank my colleagues for going out into the community and hearing their concerns as well. And hopefully we can, have a good ballot measure that everyone understands and it's clear, and our projects are clearly identified. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for the report. And thank you to our consultants for the great work that you've done. Thank you to our residents for showing up for the meeting and participating and helping us figure all this stuff out. Thank you to my colleagues also for going door to door. It's always a fun experience, actually, going out and meeting our residents and asking them questions like, what do you think we need to improve? And, would you agree to continuing a half-cent sales tax? And the response was amazing, actually. I thought because of some of the concerns in the economy that there might be some resistance to it, but by far the majority of people said that they were in favor of it. Now, there's really good reason for it. I think all of us know intuitively that if you don't repair what needs to be repaired, it gets more broke than it is now. And that's kind of the problem that we have. We're not asking to collect more money so that we can waste it on frivolous things. In fact, I have such great respect for our city staff. Our team works very, very diligently only to ask for money when it's needed, and only to ask for it in portions and amounts that we can actually use responsibly, and then assign it to tasks after a very lengthy process of getting input from the public to decide on what the priorities are. And I've got great respect for that because I've seen the results. And I've been volunteering with the city for 12 years, and I've never been disappointed with any of the projects or the processes by which we fund those projects. It's really been very, very good. So you have my applause, my sincere applause on a job well done. And there are things that need to get done. The current police station is not just out of date, it's not just dysfunctional, it's actually in danger of falling down in an earthquake. And I don't think you want, after a serious catastrophic event, to all of a sudden not be able to get the help that you need because the building that supports that operation is not functional. We have to do something about that now. We have to do something about the roads. Many people don't realize as good as the roads have become in Hayward since I first got here, the fact is that if you are driving over potholes the way that most folks are, you're probably incurring anywhere from $300 to $800 a year in repair bills from that. And it makes more sense to pay for a little bit of sales tax, a little bit of a time, than it does to pay an $800 repair bill once a year. So, and I realize that's highly conceptual, forgive me if this doesn't make a lot of sense, but the fact is we have to take care of business. We also have to take care of business. We have to repair our infrastructure, as my colleague said, for quality of life issues. If you're someone who's commuting in the morning and you're commuting at night and you're driving your kids to school and going shopping and doing all of that stuff, I don't know about you, I do not like driving on roads where I'm doing this. And it's just a quality of life issue, but it's a quality of life issue. If you're happy, generally speaking, everybody else is happy too. And that means that we're attracting more residents to the area, which means that we're helping to fund through property tax and sales tax the next level of things that we need to get. It means we're attracting more businesses, which means we're also attracting more jobs, which means you don't have to commute as far to stay in the same industry that you're in today. So I beg you, please support the measure as I do. I support it. I think going for the 20 years is probably the right thing to do based on the responses we're getting from our residents. And so I'm in support of that. I've been in support of that for 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your comments, and I want to thank. I know Ms. Moss is she's listening to us, she's watching us, and Ms. Everett, thank you very much. You guys have been with us for a long time, and I know when I see your reports come across the table, I know they're thoughtful, I know they're articulate, I know they're your methodology is certainly is up to a high standard. So I really appreciate all your work on this. I don't want to repeat a lot of what was said up here. I agree. I think for staff, I think the answer to the first bullet is proceed with the November ballot. I think there's a consensus up here. I think we want to go 20 years. And in terms of direction on project and service priorities, I do I do sense a general consensus, and we don't all need to list the priorities here on the dais, but it seems like we're listening to what the survey has told us, and with some minor tweaks here and there, and we can make those as we proceed, as we have done. And so I think we'll let the data speak for itself when it comes to that last bullet. So I think those are the three answers to the 3 bullet points that you had. But I did want to just make three brief comments. As I was looking at the report and looking at the data, clearly there is a neighborhood focus, right? And if you look at the priorities, people are concerned about their neighborhoods. I mean, if you look at, fixing streets and potholes, I mean, that's a neighborhood focus. Providing fire protection. We don't think about fire protection, but fire protection is important, especially when you live in a city like Hayward, where you have urban and suburban sort of interface up in the hills. And the other one was improving 911 emergency services. When we call 911, we expect a response. What was kind of nice to hear, as long as I've been sitting up here, and I know Councilmember Semenyo, he's been hearing the same thing over the last, 18 or so years up here, where we're very proud of the fact that if you called 911, we'll respond to your house within about 3.5 minutes. And that meets and exceeds national standards in many cases. And, and I think we do that. We have been able to meet and exceed those standards because of that. Homelessness, and services, clinical services for individuals in our city. Absolutely, that's been a priority. I'm the vice president of the Alameda County Mayor's Conference. I work with a small group of mayors on the homelessness task force for Alameda County. We have been charged by all 14 mayors to figure out a way to solve this issue up and down the 880 corridor and out into the valley. And I think when I look at something like this enables Hayward to leverage our funds, our resources with other cities and and state and federal dollars. So, this measure just isn't us collecting money and spending it. We're able to leverage it for other things and so forth. So I think that's certainly a benefit. But the point I want to make here is, the data clearly shows us, the survey clearly shows us that that these are neighborhood services that people want to continue. Secondly, I want to just say is, we're a city of young folks. We're a city of students. Folks have heard me say this before, and we're a city of 160,000 people, and about 42% of our city is between the ages, or go to school from preschool to graduate school. 42% of our city is a student from preschool to graduate school, and we need to invest not only in our academic institutions, but we need to invest in all of the supporting institutions and all of the supporting agencies that support students. our library. I mean, we have a state-of-the-art library, and and we still could do more, in our library. We have. I want to make sure that every May and every June, when students graduate from Chabot, Cal State, or the school district, or if they graduate from Berkeley or Stanford or San Francisco State, that if you're from Hayward, you choose to move back to Hayward because of the amenities, so that we can grow our tax base. I mean, I think that's, when I have conversations with all of us up here, it's about investing in our in our infrastructure, transportation and parks and facilities, but it's creating those amenities so that when we graduate a highly educated, talented workforce, that they will choose to live in Hayward, not somewhere else. Or if they work in Hayward, we like for them to live in Hayward, right? Without, so that we don't, support other cities, you see. And if we invest today in these resources, we are guaranteeing another generation a city that they can be proud of. And, I'm glad Councilmember Syrup, brought up, the point that I have been saying for a very long time. And I this is coming from somebody, I was born in this city, I was raised in this city, educated, I work in this city. And, and now I have the honor and the privilege of serving this city as the mayor. And I deeply believe that we deserve the very best in this city, the very best. When it's library services, when it's protection services, when it's city hall, when it's a hospital, university, a college, a school, that we deserve the very best. And the only way we're going to get there is that we have to invest. And I agree. Listen, I've been up here. I have voted for taxes up here, measures. I have voted for them. I've also voted against them, right? Because I get it. I know it's tough. I know it's tough. Notwithstanding, I don't think that the small burden, economic burden, will diminish our expectation of having the best. We deserve that, every single neighborhood, so that when our kids graduate from high school or college, that the very first place that they choose to live and work is right here in Hayward. And that's what we're trying to build here. And so I'm going to end my comments there, because I just really, when I look at this measure, I don't look at it as just generating revenue so we can spend it on things. I look at it as building a future, and not just for us, but we're building a future for all of our kids that are going to be, that are in our schools right now. And so the more we can invest today, the better our city will be for tomorrow. So with that, Mr. Interim City Manager, those are our responses.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We'll be back in a couple weeks with some more information, and we look forward to that discussion as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so I'd like to close this item, move to council reports and announcements. Does anybody have a council report or announcement? Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. I have an announcement from the library, again, as the library liaison. Let's see. So the Hayward Public Library's makerspace continues to grow with the addition of many exciting new technologies. If you're curious about the many things you can make at the downtown makerspace, join one of the tours at 11 a.m. on Saturday mornings. You'll learn about the equipment as well as the requirements for using the makerspace. Tours are free, and children must be over 7 and accompanied by an adult, but please contact the library for a tour and to see our exciting new offerings in the makerspace. Thank you.
Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of folks may not know it, but we have a really beautiful gallery that's free, and it's located in this city hall right by the front doors. It's called the John O. Lake Galleria. And I think it was last Friday, I could be getting my dates mixed up, but the Hayward Arts Council launched their Chinese art show in partnership with the Chinese Arts Association in San Francisco, I believe. And I have to say, just my mom is a Chinese artist. I've grown up around it my entire life. This is some of the best Chinese artwork I have seen in my entire life. This group brings some of the highest caliber artwork. They have people that have been trained by masters from Taiwan and from China. And so if you haven't had a chance to visit already, just down the stairs to the left of the front desk is a wonderful free gallery that anybody in the public can view whenever we're open. And I encourage folks to come and check it out. And I want to thank the Hayward Arts Council and my mom for helping put on that show. I'm not sure how long it's going to be there, so that's all the more reason you should get out here and check it out.
Councilman Andrews.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to let everyone know that I am the Keep Hayward Clean and Green Task Force Liaison, and wanted to remind our seniors that we have a senior yard application. If you need upgrades to your yard, our task force is taking applications now. So you can go to the City of Hayward website, put senior yard. It's not a contest, but it's more of an application. So you can get your yard fixed up by our task force and our staff. I wanted to thank task force member Leah Martinez for bringing that program to the task force. Also wanted to thank the task force for also pushing forward the item that we saw tonight regarding the Jackson Street monument sign. They also wanted to see the monument signs that you see in South Hayward. They wanted to bring it to Jackson Street as they saw that also as an equity issue and pushed it forward. So thank you all on the task force for all your hard work.
Thank you. And then we have council. There are no council. Councilman Sermenio.
Yes. My apologies. I have the honor to announce that 2 Hayward companies have been awarded the 2024 Stop Waste Environmental Leadership Awards, and they are given out every year. And the 2 companies are Vesta Food Services for excellence in food donation and Spectrum Community Services for excellence in reusable foodware efforts. So Stop Waste, we're trying to make the whole area green. I'm the representative from the city on Stop Waste. I'm very happy that we have 2 Hayward awardees, and they'll be awarded and recognized on our June 13th meeting. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I just wanted to make do a quick congratulatory plug for Cal State East Bay students graduated last week. UC Berkeley, I think, graduated last week. San Francisco State graduates this week. Chabot College graduates on Saturday. And so it's been great to turn on social media and see all Hayward students graduating, graduating 6th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade, undergrad, graduate school. We got newly minted lawyers out there, and doctors and medical doctors and PhDs and everybody. So I just want to congratulate all of our kids that are all of our students that are all over the country, and in some cases all over the world, for their achievements, academic achievements. With that said, there are no council referrals. Mr. City Manager or Mr. City Attorney, it's 8:48 p.m. Meeting adjourned.